Hey guys, what's up? So today I wanted to talk about one of the most controversial topics in reef keeping, which is the nitrogen cycle, otherwise known as cycling. Before I get started, I want to say that there's a million ways to cycle your tank, and you're not limited to what I say in this video. I'm going to try to cover as many as I can in this video. Mostly the ones I have had most success with and I find are the easiest and fastest ways. So yeah. To start off, what is the nitrogen cycle? Well, basically it's building your tank's ability to break down nutrients. So you're growing bacteria. You're going to go through 3 phases when you first start out. You got your ammonia phase, your nitrite phase, and your nitrate phase. As long as you have ammonia and nitrite in your tank, you do not want to add any livestock, such as fish, inverts, corals, or even snails. They'll all die. Ammonia and nitrite are very poisonous, especially to livestock. Once you see your ammonia drop, you're going to see your nitrite rise. And once you start seeing your nitrite drop, you're going to start seeing your nitrate rise. As soon as you hit nitrate and you have 0 ammonia and nitrite, your cycle has been completed. Once your cycle has been completed, you can go ahead and add fish, but remember that your tank is still new. Just because it's cycled, you can't just add a bunch of stuff right in. You gotta slowly add on to it so the bacteria can mature and grow and keep populating to sustain more livestock. So to start off, you could add like 2 fish, and after a couple weeks or even a month, you can add another fish. So you slowly add on to it so your tank can build the bacteria and the ability to break down the nutrients these fish produce. So that's basically what the nitrogen cycle is. One of the multiple ways to cycle your tank is using live rock. And live rock is basically rock with living organisms on it, such as bacteria, feather dusters, you name it. And they're basically living on the rock. And when you introduce it into your tank, it produces die-off, and this die-off creates ammonia, which kickstarts your cycle. Now there's pros and cons to using live rock. Some of the pros are it cycles the tank in a week. It's the fastest and easiest way to cycle your tank. Some of the cons are you can introduce a pest that is really bad, such as flatworms, and for those of you who haven't had flatworms or don't know what flatworms are, they're basically pests that are really hard to get rid of, and sometimes they eat your coral, and they're a really pain to get rid of. I'm telling you this from experience. I've had a really hard time getting rid of them, and most people who've had them know the pain I'm feeling, and know what I'm talking about. So that's one of the cons of using live rock, which is introducing a pest. You can introduce some pests which are not harmful, such as flatworms, such as bristleworms and stuff like that, but bristleworms, I would say they're not harmful to a certain extent. You can have a tank with like 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 small bristleworms, and you won't even notice it. But if you have like hundreds and thousands of huge bristleworms in your tank, then you got a problem. So it's to a certain extent. Another con is that it's really costly. On a tank like this, which is a 58-gallon tank, I would spend around $150 or $130 on live rock. And that depends and varies from where you buy it. So if you buy it from a website, they're going to charge you shipping, and it's going to add up, and it's going to be really expensive. So using live rock is really expensive, and there's a good side and a bad side to it. I've used the method before, and I would say it is a very successful method. I've used it on my first tank. I did not introduce a pest, luckily, but you always run the risk on introducing a pest, so keep that in mind. Another way to cycle your tank is using a table shrimp. Now, table shrimps, you basically utilize it with dry rock, and dry rock is rock that is dry. It has nothing on it, and there's nothing living or anything on it. It's literally dry. And when you introduce it into your tank, it takes longer to cycle. I would say around a month to 2 months, depending on your tank. All tanks are different. So when you add this shrimp that you eat, table shrimp, it breaks down and creates ammonia, and that's what kickstart your cycle. And eventually, over time, you'll see that the ammonia depletes and you'll get nitrite and nitrate. But this is one of the longest ways to cycle your tank, and it is one of the most humane ways to cycle your tank. And it also doesn't cost as much. Dry rock goes for much cheaper than live rock. For this tank, if I buy dry rock, I would spend around 70 to 80 bucks, depending on who I buy it from. And table shrimps are cheap. You can go to your local grocery store and just pick one up for like a bag up for like $5, or even go to your butcher and pick one up for like a couple cents. So it is one of the cheapest and most humane ways to cycle your tank, but it takes a really long time. So that's using the table shrimp method. Another method is using the bacteria in a bottle method. And this is basically bacteria in a bottle, and this bacteria in a bottle is what kickstarts your cycle. Now, it claims, these bacteria in the bottles, they claim that you can add fish right away, but I do not recommend that, because ammonia is still present in your tank, even though you just added that stuff. I would wait about a week before you add any livestock to the tank, just to let the tank mature and let that bacteria in the bottle really settle in and grow. It's like moving into a new place. You take time to settle in, so you got to give it about a week so the bacteria that's introduced can settle in. Bacteria in a bottle is utilized with dry rock once again. So most of these other methods are used with dry rock. So that's using bacteria in a bottle. There's a couple products out there, such as Nutrifin Cycle, Biospira from Instant Ocean, and Dr. Tim's One and Only. So those are a couple products you can use to cycle your tank. Once again, this is another cheap method. There are no risks to this. There's no pests, nothing. It will take a little longer than using live rock. You won't be able to add fish right away, like the bottle says. So, like live rock, give it about a week, maybe 2 weeks. Just keep testing your system. Once your nitrite and your ammonia drops, and you don't see any, and you start seeing algae grow and stuff like that, then I would say it's safe to put your your fish in. So that's the bacteria in a bottle method. Another method is utilizing pure ammonia. Now, using pure ammonia is a really simple and easy way. It's not as complicated as it sounds. You just basically go to a reputable dealer and buy some ammonia, such as Dr. Tim's website. They sell ammonia, and it's a diluted solution of pure ammonia. It has to be pure. Make sure there's no other stuff in it, no other cleaning reagents or mold removers. You don't want any of that in your tank. You want pure NH4. So yeah, Dr. Tim's website, I know they sell pure ammonia just for reef tanks. and it's a diluted solution which you add 1 drop per gallon. And this ammonia basically allows you to skip the time period of breaking down a matter. So you can add this with dry rock. You utilize pure ammonia with dry rock, and it basically skips the time period in half, cuts it in half, and allows you to cycle your tank a little faster. And it's basically cutting down to the chemical side of cycling, and basically going down to bare bones. You're skipping all the other crap, and you're going down straight to the chemical equation. It is one of the safest ways to do it if you do it right, and it is very cheap. This ammonia would cost you around $3 per bottle. And for this tank, I would add 58 drops, which is around 1 bottle of ammonia. So I would spend around $3 plus around $70 to $80 for dry rock. So that's using the ammonia in a bottle method. Another way you can go about cycling your tank is using live fish, such as chromis or damsels. These are hardy fish, so in most cases they can handle the ammonia and the nitrite, but it is inhumane to use these, so keep that in mind. Basically what you're doing is you're adding the fish into your tank with dry rock, and when they pee and poo and when you feed them, they produce ammonia, and this ammonia kickstarts your cycle. There's pros and cons, just like anything else. On the con side, like I said before, it's inhumane. You might tear up your aquascape trying to take the fish out. If you ever tried to catch damsels or chromis, you might know that they are not the easiest fish to catch. You can't just sweep them up like clownfish. Another con is that they can be aggressive if you leave them in. They don't really like sharing space with other fish, and they can really bully other fish if you leave them in. On the pro side, they are really cheap. It cycles your tank in a reasonable time, about a month or so. And it's overall a cheap method. It's a really easy, cheap way to cycle your tank. You just put the fish in and take them out when you want, and it cycles your tank. So yeah, overall inhumane and really cheap. So you can go about using this method. And yeah, so that's another method you can go about to cycle your tank. So the final method I want to talk about today is using cured rock. Cured rock is basically rock with all the bacteria that is already living on the rock. If you have really good cured rock, you will never see a cycle. And that's what I saw in my case. On this 58-gallon tank, I am using cured rock. What happened was I expected to see a cycle, an ammonia spike, a small one, but I never saw it due to the fact that my rock was really good cured. I expected to see it because one of my rocks were dried up because I took a really long time aquascaping it, so it dried up in the process. But I expected to see it, a cycle, but I never saw it because the other rock that I had in there that was cured broke down the ammonia before I even got to see it on the test kit. So using cured rock is one of the safest, easiest methods, I would say, but it takes a really long time. I spent 5 months to cure this rock, and I got it to cure really well, as you can see from what I said before. It does take a really long time, but it cuts out all the risk of getting pests, anything in the tank. It's basically rock with bacteria. And since I expected to see this ammonia, I waited about a month. So I would say the tank is ready now. So I'm going to go ahead and add a fish today, which I'll make another video on. But other than that, using cured rock, pros, No pests, it's cheap, and you can use dried rock as long as you cure it. I'll make another video on how you can cure it, but those are the pros. It's cheap and it's really safe. You won't add any pests. And on the con side, it takes really long, and you can get tricked if you don't cure your rock properly. So there's always a risk using cured rock. If it's not cured properly, you will never see an ammonia spike due to the fact that you never introduce any dead matter, such as stuff breaking down. So those are the pros and cons to using cured rock. So yeah, that's about it for this video. I hope you found it useful. I tried to explain it as simple as I could. I tried to go over the most methods as possible in the time limit. And yeah, so thanks for watching. If you liked the video, go and hit the like button. If you have any questions, any comments, anything you want to add on, go ahead and put it down in the comment section below. I'll be glad to go over and read it and address any comments. Address any comments and questions if needed. So yeah, if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe and keep up with my channel's contents, go ahead and hit the subscribe. And yeah, thanks for watching, and goodbye.